skyrocketing home prices, rampant homelessness, open drug use, and poop fairies. What do these things all have in common? Well, they are the legacy of Mayor Moonbeam, or also known as Gregor Robertson, the former mayor of Vancouver, who was tapped by the Carney to run as an MP in a new riding that was created. And of course, he won because people are stupid. And to make matters worse, the Carney put Moonbeam in charge of the housing files. So he's now the federal housing minister. This is a guy who ran Vancouver into the ground. Housing prices on average more than tripled from the time he took office to the time he left. Not only that, but he was and still is a huge proponent for open drug use. Let's give people all the drugs they want for free, and let them do these drugs wherever they want. Elementary school, no problem. ICU, no problem. You know, I don't know what it is with these people and their mindset. How they focus on bending the entire society around the will of groups that represent fractions of percentages. You know, there are roughly 3,000 homeless people in Vancouver, yet the entire city is held hostage because up until recently, the police weren't even allowed to take their drugs away from them if they were shooting up or smoking crack or whatever in the playground of a daycare center. How does that make any sense? But all these leftists are the same. Dweeby, Gregor Robertson. For people who don't know him from the United States, just basically picture Gavin Newsom. They put them side by side, they look like they could be brothers. They have the same mindset and everything. And just like San Francisco's human fecal issue is Gavin Newsom's legacy that will follow him forever, same thing with Gregor Robertson. Vancouver has an out-of-control human fecal problem. This isn't something a city like Vancouver should have. A city like San Francisco should have. Like, these cities should not have this problem where you have out-of-control human feces all over the streets, and it becomes an issue of like navigating a minefield, trying to just walk down the sidewalk and try not to step in human poop. It's bad enough that some people don't pick up after their dogs, but now you have to contend with humans as well. And now the guy that is responsible for allowing this to happen in Vancouver, for allowing this to fester for years, this is the guy who's in charge of the federal housing portfolio. Like, oh my good God. The Carney is just insane, man. He's out of his mind. He's picked the worst possible people for these files. But I mean, like, just this year alone, the first quarter of 2025, they've already had 232 complaints of poop on the sidewalk. And the poop fairies, it's a real thing. This is a real thing. The poop fairies have collected 3,370 human poops just in this first quarter alone in Vancouver. So the poop fairies, uh, the group was created. They work for the city, and just as it sounds, they go around the city and they collect human poop and they sanitize the area and everything. It's not a very pleasant job. I can't imagine. I worked for a number of years in environmental infrastructure, and part of that was in wastewater. So I've worked in and around, water treatment facilities, sewage treatment facilities for quite some time. So I'm quite familiar with it. But the thing is, when you go there, that's where the poop's supposed to be. You're supposed to see brown trout floating around. That's the whole point. So it's okay when you wander through and you see this. When you see whitefish or red trout or brown trout, that's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be on the sidewalk. So I can't imagine that. So these people, these poop fairies, they work 5 days a week and they work in 2-hour shifts because, my God, how much could you stand cleaning up human poop off the sidewalk? And this represents a real health risk, because you know how flies love poop. And so I think this is the most times I've said poop probably in my life in such a short period of time. But flies like poop. They land on the poop. They fly. They land on your food. Maybe they land on your tongue. It's not a healthy situation. Human feces is chock full of just nasty, nasty stuff. And it's not healthy. It's a good way to spread disease like hepatitis A. It's just gross. And it's so out of control because blind eyes didn't want to see anything for so many years, that any successive government that's taken over hasn't been able to get a foothold, because there's always the crying left. If you try to straighten anything out, if you try to gentrify, if you try to improve neighborhoods, if you try to clean anything up, everybody comes out of the woodwork screaming, crying, and whining that you're trouncing on these people's rights. No. No one has the right to step in, or to take a poop on a sidewalk. No one. And no one in their right mind would. This is something that, you would never do if you were in your right mind. But if you have drug-induced mental illness and you're high as a kite, you're not thinking right. Right? You don't. Your common sense is gone completely out the window. Your brain has been rewired. You don't have things like modesty or anything like that. So it's nothing to just drop your drawers and drop a deuce right in the middle of the sidewalk. You don't think, you don't care. Nature's calling. Oh, these people are so emboldened. They don't see a difference between a washroom and the sidewalk. But this is the legacy that is left behind by these ultra far left wing activists portraying themselves, masquerading as politicians. Fagger Robertson is not a politician, he's an activist. And like all the rest, like Gavin Newsom, like Trudeau, these people are all more concerned with getting a little bit of a pat on the back or a little pat on the dick for a job well done. They're more concerned about the accolades that they receive and the thumbs up and the virtue signaling points that they receive from other elites that will never be in these situations. Now, they do this stuff just for that. And the thing is, it's fleeting. It lasts a day or two. And then it's like a drug to them. They need the next hit. And so they have to go and make some other announcement that sounds good, but it's all just words. There's never any action behind it. And they're all the same. You know, Fagger Robertson, Gavin Newsom, Trudeau, they're all the same. They're all, stuffed suits, shiny ponies in stuffed suits, man. You line those three up and it's like, which one is which? I understand when, colored people say they can't tell whiteys apart. Well, there, Trudeau, Newsom, Fagger Robertson do the shell game and go, okay, now which one's which? I don't know. They're all the same. But they're more concerned about, saying these virtuous words and getting these virtue points rather than actually rolling their sleeves up and doing the work and helping people. And so Fagger Robertson, his entire tenure as mayor, he allowed a very tiny portion of the population to basically run roughshod over the entire city. And because of that, it just grew and grew and grew. They spent, over the last 15, 20 years, billions of dollars have been spent, just like in San Francisco, just like, what Dweeby is doing for the province here, Gavin Newsom is doing for the state of California there. Spending all this money on these problems, and all they keep doing is enabling these people instead of getting them the help they need. When a person is so far gone because of drug use and having lived on the street, homeless for years or even, a decade plus, these people are far beyond the position where they can make their own decisions. They need to be picked up, taken away to a proper treatment facility where they can straighten their lives out. A full treatment center where they can get themselves nice and clean and then focus on their mental health, their physical health, their spiritual health, get themselves centered again, give them some worth, give them something to aim for. We had this place called Volk Academy, which was doing just that, but it sounds like it's the guy that used to own United Furniture Warehouse. And when he sold that to the Brick, he set up this John Volk Academy. And the whole purpose behind it was, if you were an addict, you'd come in and you did this program. I think it was like 2 years or something. And it was a full service facility. They'd help get you clean and everything. But we had one here, but the NDP government shut it down. Dweeby shut it down because they said it was not being run properly or some such. There's a whole... The complaints that they listed as the reasons for shutting it down didn't really make a lot of sense, but it's gone now anyway. So rather than work with them to try and get them back on track, they just shut it down. There are people in the middle of treatment. Some people were just about to graduate and receive a certificate that would help them get, full-time employment or at least part-time employment, maybe find an apartment on their own. And they just out the rug from underneath them, rather than actually do the work and try and get, if they thought this facility was drifting off course and wasn't doing what they claimed they were doing, then work with them, get them back on track. But no, they just shut the whole thing down, just like that. That's the way they work. Don't do the work. It's easier to go out there and say, oh, we have such compassion with drug users, and so we want to employ safe supply. We want to give them all the drugs that they can ever want for free anytime, so they can do them anywhere they want and poop on the sidewalks whenever they want. Just going back, so 2022, there were 1,311 complaints, and they picked up 20,800 human poops. 2023, it's been declining, I will say that, so that's good. But again, This all started under Figure Robertson's tenure as mayor, and it's been perpetuated by provincially Dweeby and the NDP government. And so in 2023, Vancouver fielded 753 complaints and picked up 19,800 poops, human poops, off the sidewalk in downtown Vancouver, world-renowned city. And last year they had 761 complaints and picked up 17,670 human poops. Human poops off the sidewalk in Vancouver, British Columbia. Supposed to be, a magnificent destination city. People come from all over the world to visit Vancouver, to work in Vancouver, to film movies, to record music. And they have to contend with thousands and thousands of human poops on the sidewalks every single day. I mean, to get to these numbers, obviously it's more than one or two poops here and there, right? It's ridiculous, but this is what you get when you vote in far radical leftists who masquerade as politicians. They don't really care about anything but themselves and how they can get little accolades from their peer group. Oh, you're doing so well. Oh, you're doing so well. Oh, yeah, you're doing so well. We've got poop all over the bloody place. So well that everyone has to carefully watch where they step. Not because they're going to step in dog poop, because they're going to step in human poop. Ay. Why do people keep voting for these morons? And now, like I said, the guy that more than tripled Vancouver housing prices and by proxy Metro Vancouver housing prices, that the guy responsible for ensuring that no locally born young person can ever buy a home and raise a family in Vancouver or even within the cities close to Vancouver like Burnaby or Richmond. That ain't gonna happen. This is all on Gregor Robertson, and now he's our federal housing minister. So once again, good job, the Carney. All a bunch of morons.